Hey y'all, welcome back for another legislation breakdown with your man here. Um, the particular bill I have on tap for you guys in this video has a lot to do with our quote unquote, as the Democrats call, our election integrity. But there's more in this bill than meets the eye. Um, I'm gonna call it. Have already called it atrocious. And there's a lot of things going on in this bill that people don't understand, and they're just looking right at, oh, Mitch McConnell is blocking all this, that, and the third, and he doesn't care about election integrity. But once you dig into the bill and you understand what's happening, I think you're going to be pretty appalled the things that we will uncover um, on this particular video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this particular piece of legislation. What we have here is the is HR 2722, the SAFE Act. All right, it was introduced by Zoe Lofgren out of the 19th District of California, Democrat, obviously. Um, and this bill, basically, it's already summarized. Here we are. It's basically summarizing, but it's for the people that read this stuff, right? The the purview looks pretty innocent, right? It says the bill addresses election security through grant programs and requirements for voting machines and paper ballots. The bill establishes requirements for voting systems, including that systems one, use individual, durable, voter verified paper ballots. Two, make a voter's marked ballot available for inspection and verification by the voter before the vote is cast. Three, ensure that individuals with disabilities are given the equivalent opportunity to vote, including with privacy and independence in a manner that produces a voter verified paper ballot, and four, be manufactured in the United States. The National Science Foundation must award grants to study, test, and develop accessible voter verified paper verified paper ballot voting and best practices to enhance the accessibility of such voting for individuals with disabilities, for voters whose primary language is not English, and for voters with difficulties in literacy. The Election Assistance Commission must award grants to states to replace certain voting systems, carry out voting system security improvements, and implement and model best practices for ballot design, ballot instructions, and the testing of ballots, and two, conduct risk limiting audits. The states may use election requirements payments to carry out activities related to election security. The EAC must provide for the testing of voting system hardware, software, and decertify such technology that does not meet guidelines. Right? On the surface, the people that are like not knowing and they read that summary say, "Oh, this is great," but there is certainly some issues going on. You got to excuse me with that. Some car alarm is going off. I apologize about that. Um, but like I said, on the surface, people are like, "Oh man, that's great, right?" Um, where we can have some sort of election security, and we can make sure Russia or China doesn't hack back into the elections, and states will get upgrades on their voting equipment, and this new commission, the EAC, is going to oversee that and distribute funds, which is good. But the people that understand in how elections are supposed to be conducted per the Constitution, you should be pretty appalled with this. And if you don't understand, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to break it down for you. So let's get into it here. Um, Obviously, it passed the House. Let's look at the votes here. Okay. it apparently it was right down party lines, as you can see. Democrats, all the Democrats voted for it, 224. One Republican voted for it, and 184 no votes from the Republicans on this one. So it was basically right down party lines for the most part when it comes to this. So really nothing to see here. This was kind of expected, but you'll see why in a second, why this literally is a split vote. So let's get into the piece of legislation real quick here. As again, H.R. 2722. And this is about 108 page bill. I'm not going to read all of it like I do the other pieces of legislation. I just highlighted some critical parts that should alarm you in this bill. Okay, so we have, securing America's Federal Elections Act, or the SAFE Act is the acronym for it. Let's get through all this fluff. So the first section, paper ballots, section 102, paper ballot and manual counting requirements. In general, section 301A2 of the Help America Vote Act of 2002, which is Title 52 of the U.S. Code, is amended as follows. Paper ballot requirement. Voter verified paper ballots, and then paper ballot requirement. God, I don't know why they write that so much. So they're just basically changing the language, right? The voting system shall require the use of an individual, durable, voter verified paper ballot of the voter's vote that shall be marked and made available for inspection and verification by the voter. By the voter's vote is cast and counted, and which shall be counted by hand or read by an optical character recognition device or other counting device. So keep that in mind as we come through. There's a whole bunch of fluff in here. Here we go. Section 103, accessibility and ballot verification for individuals with disabilities. And they're amending, obviously, Title 52 of the U.S. Code. Ensure that individuals with disabilities and others are given an equivalent opportunity to vote, including with privacy and independence, in a manner that produces a voter-verified paper ballot as for other voters. Satisfy the requirement of subparagraph A through the use of at least one voting system equipped for individuals with disabilities, including non-visual and enhanced visual accessibility for the blind and visually impaired, and non-manual enhanced manual accessibility for the mobility and dexterity impaired at each polling place, and meets the requirements of subparagraph A and paragraph 2A as using a system that allows the voter to privately and independently verify the permanent paper ballot through the presentation in accessible form of the printed or marked vote selections for the same printed or marked information that will be useful for any vote counting or auditing. And we come down here, section 247, study and report on accessible paper ballot verification mechanisms. Study and report, the Director of National Science Foundation shall make grants to not fewer than 3 eligible entities to study, test, and develop accessible paper ballot voting verification and casting mechanisms and devices and best practices to enhance the accessibility of paper ballot voting and verification mechanisms for individuals with disabilities, for voters whose primary language is not English, and for voters with difficulties in literacy, including best practices for the mechanisms themselves and the process through which the mechanisms are used. Subparagraph B, eligibility. An entity is eligible to receive a grant under this part if it submits to the director at such time and in such form as the director may require an application containing certifications that the entity shall specifically investigate enhanced methods or devices, including non-electronic devices that will assist such individuals and voters in marking voter verified paper ballots and presenting or transmitting the information printed or marked on such ballots back to such individuals and voters, and casting such ballots. A certification that the entity shall complete the activities carried out with the grant not later than December 31st, 2020, and such other information and certifications as the director may require. Availability of, subsection C, availability of technology. Any technology developed with the grants made under this section shall be treated as non-proprietary and shall be made available to the public, including to manufacturers of voting systems. That right there in itself, folks, let me tell you something. That in itself is a problem. In itself, that's a problem. Why is the government, one, impeding on intellectual property? They already talk about how China, okay, is stealing our intellectual property. And here we have our own government. We have our own government stealing our own citizens' intellectual property. You see this? I hope you're understanding what I'm saying, right? You take the government's money, anything you develop is non-proprietary, and the government was requiring you to distribute it to the public immediately. It's like they own your work. What is that called when the government controls the means of production? Oh, wait a minute. That's fascism. The government right here is impeding on liberty of these private companies, baiting them with money so they can steal people's intellectual property, control the commerce of that property, and profit off of it. You should be pretty ticked off right now. If you're not, I'd like to know why you're not. You can leave that in the comments below on the video. That is the definition of fascism. The government controlling the means of production. Right there. It's sickening. But let's keep going. Let's see here in subparagraph E, the authorization of appropriations. Okay, there is authorized to be appropriated to carry out subsection A, $5 million to remain available until expended. In the clerical amendment, the table of contents of such act is amended by redesignating the item related to 247 as related to section 248 and by inserting after the item relating to section 246 the following new item: study and report on accessible paper ballot verification mechanisms. Okay, and then the clarifications of the accessibility standards on the voluntary voting system guidance and adopting any voluntary guidance under subtitle B of Title III of the Help America Vote Act will, with respect to the accessibility of the paper ballot verification requirements for individuals with disabilities, the Election Assistance Commission shall include and apply the same accessibility standards applicable under the voluntary guidance adopted for accessible voting systems under such subtitle. Let me see what else. I know I had something. Here we go. Paper ballot printing requirements. Okay. Requiring paper ballots to be printed on cycled paper manufactured in the United States. You caught that, right? Did you catch that? Let me read that again for you. The requirements requiring paper ballots to be printed on recycled paper manufactured in the United States. Again, these fascists sitting on Capitol Hill is still dictating to the citizens how and what they should do with the paper ballots. Government needs to get out of trying to control the means of production. But I digress to the end of the video. Right here. Printing requirements for all paper ballots. All paper ballots used in an election for federal office shall be printed in the United States on recycled paper manufactured in the United States. The effective date the amendment made by subsection A shall apply with respect to elections occurring on or after January 1st, 2021. And I think I had one more thing in here. Oh, no, I didn't. Or do I? Let me check here. I know I had at least one more thing in here. I know for sure. At least I thought I did. Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. There's where we're going. Okay. Scroll down. Section 297B, eligibility of states. A state, okay, is eligible to receive a grant under this part if the state submits to the commission at such time and in such form as commission may require an application containing 1, a description of how the state will use the grant to carry out the activities authorized under this part. 2, a certification and assurance that not later than 5 years after receiving the grant, the state will carry out voting system security improvements as described in Section 297A. And 3, such other information and assurances as the Commission may require. Section 297D, authorization or appropriations. There are authorized to be appropriated for grants under this part $600 million for fiscal year 2019 and $175 million for each of the fiscal years 2020, 2022, 2024, and 2026. And then we already talked about that part. I can't believe I missed that part on there. Continuing availability of amounts, any amount appropriated pursuant to the authorization of this section shall remain available until expended. And then let's continue on. Like I said, this is a lot of page, a lot of fluff in here, but they masked a whole lot of this stuff in here to make it all sound and look good. But they hid the crucial parts on the federal government's encroachment on the states on how they conduct their elections. Here we go. The use of voting machines manufactured in the United States. And we'll come down here. The voting machine requirements by not later than the date of the regularly scheduled general election for federal office occurring in November 2022. Each state shall seek to ensure that any voting machine used in such election and any subsequent election for federal office is manufactured in the United States. I don't know how y'all feel about that. I mean, seriously, just think about this, man. How do you really feel about that? The federal government is controlling the means of production, dictating to the states what they should do in their election process. There is something called the 9th and the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. That's just baseline. Before I really get digging into all that's going down, that's a baseline. We're just going to sit here and just dictate to the states, you do as we say or else. You guys on the Hill forgot one thing. The states create the federal government. And just as easy as they created the federal government, we can take out the federal government. We don't have to send people up to the Hill. We don't have to. And you don't have a quorum, you don't have a government. The nerve of these Democrats to try to dictate to a state how to conduct their elections. That is out of their jurisdiction. That is completely out of bounds. But apparently 224 of them have never read the Constitution a day in their life, or they will never signed off on this. Let's continue on here. Here's the interesting part, right? And before I get to that, right, there's another bill that was introduced by Rodney Davis out of the 13th District of Illinois, the Election Security Assistance Act, right? And this bill right here is bottom baseline. Hey, we need to make sure your elections are secure. If you need help in securing those, we can give you assistance if you need it, if you're having problems. But with this bill, I won't go into this bill too much. That might be for a whole nother video. Maybe I think I probably will do another video on this particular bill, but be on the lookout for this particular bill to be on a video here soon. But this is the conservative solution. This bill right here, H.R. 3412, Election Security Assistance Act, is the conservative approach, the constitutional approach to fix our elections and keep them secure. But I digress from that. While we're sitting here talking about this bill, everybody's talking about, hey, what's the cost of this bill going to be? Well, unfortunately, people, again, we're spending money. This is the CBO report for the SAFE Act. First 5 years. First 5 years of this bill. Do you see that number? And this is written in millions. Do you see this number? $1.1 billion? $1.1 billion. I'll say it again. $1.1 billion. I mean, this is absurd, y'all. This is absolutely absurd, to say the least. I'm speechless. Even, and I've already done the research on this and looked at this, and I look at that number and I just cringe when I see this. I completely cringe when I see this number. 5 years. I want to look at something here real quick. Let me move that out of the way. I'm going to calculate the outlay, the total outlay on this, because even for the 10-year span, they don't even have Oh, here it is. Oh, here it is right here. They already have it right here for me. Look at this, folk. Look at this, folk. Look at this. 2020, $775 million. Authorization. Estimated outlay, $580 million. I mean, this is astronomical, people. I mean, look, this is exactly what the CBO says right here. Let's take a look at it. For this estimate, the CBO assumes that the bill will be enacted near the end of 2019 and that the specified estimated amounts will be appropriated for each fiscal year beginning in 2020, would authorize the appropriation of $600 million for 2019. That apply to 2020. $1.1 billion. 10 years, y'all. $1.1 billion for these fascist Democrats up on the Hill to steal our money, to invest in companies that they will profit off of because the technology they create is non-proprietary and they can do whatever they want with it, and they demand the manufacturer to send it to the public sector. If that doesn't piss you off, I really don't know where your scruples are right now. $1.1 billion. We can barely pay the 22 trillion we got, and we're going to attack on what does that make this week? Total money they've spent this week. 3.2 trillion dollars they spent. $3.4 trillion they have spent this week. Now I tell you, little one, this ain't good. This is not good. The way they keep spending our money like this. I mean, this is just completely appalling, and that's honest. I mean, for a free and fair and secure election, okay, it is paramount to our democracy, okay. Securing our elections it shouldn't be a partisan issue, okay. But again, here we go with the Democrats, right? Made it all about them. Now, if you remember earlier this year, H.R.1, which is supposed to be a partisan bill, right? So many people kicked dust up and rocks and everything else and chunked them. They backed off of that. Because here's the thing, right? People like me, people like you, that pay attention to this stuff, we vehemently rejected that particular attempt to federalize the state's constitutional responsibilities to administer elections. Do you understand what I'm saying here? So, when we decided to say, hell no, this is not working out for us and it's not going to work out for you, they come out with this bill, this H.R. 2722, right? And again, as you read in that bill right with me, it still called for a federalization of state elections. But you know what's funny, though? You know what's funny about this, though? If you watch C-SPAN religiously like I do, they want to talk about the paper ballot in the process, and they all use electronic clickers in Congress. I mean, really, these processes, you know what they do? They want to move the voting process in a regressive way, okay? At the same time, right, giving federal bureaucrats control of our constitutional right to vote. This bill didn't even address anything with foreign interference. But instead, it will create a federally mandated from the top down that completely ignores constitutional authorities of state and local governments. But hell, when has a Democrat really cared about the Constitution? I mean, really. You guys need to start respecting the 10th Amendment. You really do. On top of the $1.1 billion you're going to put on our heads. I mean, I can name the ways this bill is unconstitutional. And I'm going to rat them off to you. If you're following me on Twitter, you already know what I'm about to say because I've already tweeted it today, or Facebook, or Red Elephant, or any of those social media platforms, right? Here's the bottom line. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Okay? Let me bring that up. That's what I should do. I should bring that up so you guys can see and understand what I'm talking about here. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18. Okay, we'll get to it in a minute, little one. We'll get to it a little bit. I think. Okay, I'm not even going to get into it right now. But it's violating Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Article 4, Section 4 is violating the Article 5. Okay, actually, you know what? I'll bring those up so you guys get an understanding exactly where I'm going. I'll just go ahead and bring them up because I know I'm just spouting off constitutionality and you don't have any context. So let me do that. Let me get this. Let me get these pulled up real quick. Uh, Everything's going so slow. There it is. The enclave clause. There it is. Okay, here we go. Let me bring the screen back for you. All right. So we have here. This is it is the enclave clause. Congress, the Congress shall have power to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 square miles as may by cession of particular states and acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States. All right. The the other one, as we know, is Article 4, Section 4. If you are familiar with the with said Constitution, you already know. Let me get that pulled up here because I can't recite them anymore, unfortunately. I've gotten too old for that. Y'all gotta forgive me for that. Y'all gotta forgive me. All right, here we go. Article 4. There we go. Article 4, Section 4. All right, so Article 4, Section 4 says the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. Okay. And then we have, obviously, we know Article 5 of our lovely Constitution. As y'all know, I have talked about this all the time. All right. So we have here the Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as one of the other modes of ratification may be proposed by Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to 1808 shall any manner affect the first and fourth clauses of the 9th section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. And then obviously we know about the 10th Amendment and how it secures state rights. So this bill on its own is so unconstitutional. I can't believe people even voted for it. But again, these are people that don't like the Constitution at all, period. They just want to do things on a whim because it smells and it feels good. And we have to stop this government tyranny in its tracks. We have to stop it in its tracks, because if we don't, what's next? What's coming down the pipe? I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you wouldn't mind doing me a favor, go ahead and click a like on this, share it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Share this on social media, because, again, just like my other videos, it's important that people understand this legislation and see where these things are going, where they're spending our money, and how they sugarcoat everything to make it sound so great, but at the same time, they're raping our pockets. They're literally walking up behind us like thieves in the night and snatching it from us, and we're not stopping them. At the same time, hashtag, where's my receipt for this money you taking out of my back pocket? So remember, go ahead and do all that, like, rate, share, and all that good stuff for me, and share this on social media. And until next time, God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless these United States of America.